We have spent several days solving equations with multiple steps, and now we are going to apply what we have known or what we have learned with some word problems. So you have a choice of either trying the word problems all on your own and then checking with this video, or you can work them out as I go. For number 1, it says in a city, building A is 388 feet taller than 2 times the height of building B. The height of building A is 842 feet. It says to draw a bar diagram, so I will show you what that is, and write an equation to model the problem and then solve the equation. Now, information that was left out of here is that we are supposed to find the height of building B. So that's what our job is to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a bar diagram based on the information given in the problem. So it says that building A is 388 feet taller than 2 times the height of building B. So I'm going to draw building B here and just label it with a B. And we have 2 of them, so we're going to build another building B right on top, 2 times the height of building B, and it's 388 feet more than that. So I'm going to put 388 in there. That is equivalent to building A. So right next to that, I have building A. And we know that building A is 842 feet. So that is what a bar diagram is. Now we are to write an equation, and we can see that 2B's plus 388, so I would write 2B plus 388 is equivalent to 842. And I can see that easily with the bar diagram. Now we have to apply our knowledge of how to solve equations. So we separate the 2 parts where the equal sign is. We need to get the variable by itself, so we need to subtract 388 first from both sides, and that is the subtraction property of equality. We drop the 2b down. 388 minus 388 is 0, so those cancel each other out. And then on the right hand side, when we do that subtraction, we get 454. And now we have to divide both sides by 2. Again, in the higher level mathematics, we like to use the fraction bar for division. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and we are left with B on the left hand side, and that was the objective. And then we have to do 454 divided by 2. Hopefully you don't need a calculator to do that. And we have 227. So what we have done is we have found that the height of building B is 227 feet. And there's our answer. Let's go ahead and move on to number 2. This is a similar problem to number 1, so we can do a bar diagram even though it doesn't require it. A traffic helicopter ascends 137 meters more than 2 times its original height. This is 1,041 meters above the ground. Write and solve an equation to represent this situation. Again, information is left out of this problem by accident, and our objective is to find the original height of the helicopter. So the original height we'll say is h, and since it says it's 2 times its original height, we have 2 h's here in our bar diagram, and it's 137 meters more than that. So I'm going to add a third bar, and that's 137 there. It says its height is 1,041 meters above the ground. So this bar here is 1,041 meters. So that helps us set up our equation. Our equation is going to be that 2h's plus 137 is equivalent to 1,041. Now we're going to solve the equation, subtracting 137 from each side. Drop that 2h down. 137 minus 137 is 0, so that cancels out. And 1041 minus 137 is 904. And then we are going to divide both sides by 2. And that tells us that our original height was 452 meters. Original height of the helicopter, was 452 meters. Alright, let's move on to number 3. In number 3, it asks, how long will it take Michelle to drive 275 miles if she averages 50 miles per hour on the trip? So we have to use the formula, distance equals rate times time. That is a formula that you should be extremely familiar with, so if you don't know it, make sure that you memorize that. Distance is always equal to rate times time. So if we want to know how long it will take, we're looking for t, and she drives 275 miles, so that goes in for the distance, and the rate is 50 miles per hour. So we plug in 50 for the rate, and we don't know t, and now it's a simple one-step equation. Divide both sides by 50, and that leaves us with 5.5. So it will take 5.5 hours for Michelle to drive. Alright, number 4. This one is a little bit more involved. It says in 3 months a shopkeeper spends $5,655 for rent, electricity, and water. Each month he spends $1,600 for rent and $230 for electricity. Write and solve an equation to determine how much money he spends for water each month. So what you need to consider is that he is spending for 3 months a total of $5,655. So the total, and that's where we'll start, the total is $5,655. Then it says each month he spends $1,600 for rent and $230 for electricity, and we want to know how much he spends for water. So we would add up $1,600 plus $230 plus the water. That's how much he spends each month, and then we have to multiply that by 3. So at this point, there are 2 ways you can solve this problem. Let's go ahead and solve inside the parentheses, simplify inside the parentheses. So if you add 1,600 and 230, we get 1,830. So that's how it simplifies, and this 5655 stays. Now you have 2 choices. You can either distribute the 3 and solve from there, or you can divide both sides by 3. I think I'm going to choose dividing both sides by 3. And when we divide both sides by 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that eliminates the 3's, and I'm left with 1,830 plus the water is equal to 1,885. And then to solve for W, I subtract 1,830 from both sides. And that leaves me with W equals $55. So that means that he spends $55 each month on water. All right, moving on to number 5. A rental car agency charges $180 per week, and that should say plus 25 cents per mile to rent a car. Write and solve an equation to determine how many miles you can travel in 1 week for $407.50. So no matter what, you are charged $180. So that's what we start with. And it says per week, but you're only going for 1 week. So we don't have to multiply it by the number of weeks. And we are adding, because it says plus, 25 cents per mile. And the question is how many miles. So we multiply the cost per mile times miles. And then we know we have $407.50 to spend. So now, once we have our equation set up, we can solve using the properties of equality. So we're going to subtract 180 from both sides. 180 minus 180 is 0, so that goes away. This 25 cents times m drops down, and 407.50 minus 180 is 227.50. And then from here, we can either divide by 0.25, or we can think of that as 1/4 and multiply by the reciprocal 4. So either way you want to do it is fine. Divide by 0.25 on both sides, or multiply both sides by 4. And the result is 0.25 divided by 0.25 is 1, so we have 1m, which is what we wanted, is equivalent to 910. So that means that in 1 week you can travel 910 miles with this car rental agency. So you want to write your answer in sentence form, which is what I have there. And let's go ahead and move on to number 6. Given the perimeter of a rectangle, so the first thing that I'm going to do is draw my rectangle. The perimeter is 20 millimeters and its length is 8 millimeters. Write and solve an equation to determine the width of the rectangle. So we know that this is 8 millimeters, but we don't know the width. So you should know that the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus the width. So that's a formula that you should know. Another way we could write that is 2L plus 2W. So if you wanted to do it that way, you could. Or you could say that you add up all the sides, so that's L plus W plus W. So all of those are equivalent. Let's go ahead and plug in the numbers that we know. We were told that the perimeter is 20, so I'm going to plug 20 in for P. We know that the length is 8, so I plug 8 in for L, and that's all we know. So from here I have two choices. I can either distribute the 2, or I can divide both sides by 2. I'm going to choose to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So right now I have 10 is equal to 8 plus W, and then we would subtract 8 from each side, which means that the width is 2. So you want to write your answer in a sentence form. the width of the rectangle is 2 millimeters. All right. Moving on to number 7. An appliance store decreases the price of a 19-inch television set to 22% to a sale price of $480.87. Write and solve an equation to determine the original price of the television. So the first thing that you have to realize is that they are decreasing the cost by 22%, which means that we have to pay 78% of the original price. So if I think of it that way, I can set up my equation 78%, or 0.87, of means times, so times the original, is equal to $480.87. So once we have it set up, we can use our properties of equality. Here I need to use the division property of equality to get x by itself, so divide both sides by 0.78. And 0.78 divided by 0.78 is 1, so I'm left with 1x. And then you would obviously want to use a calculator to do 480.87 divided by 0.78, and you should end up with 616.5. So you want to write that in a sentence form to answer the question. What is the original price of the television? So you would say that the original price of the television was $616.50. So you want to put that in sentence form. So there's my sentence. The original price was $616.50. All right, moving on to number 8. It says Jim is paid $25 per hour at his job, and he currently has $750 in his bank account. In order to go on a trip with his friends, he needs to have $1,500. Write and solve an equation to determine how many hours Jim must work to have enough money to go on the trip. So since he's paid $25 per hour, and we want to know how many hours Jim has to work, our variable is going to be h for hours. So we start with 25 and multiply that by how many hours he works. But he already has $750, and he needs $1,500. So the equation is 25h plus 750 equals 1,500. Now we're ready to solve. We need to subtract 750 from each side. So that leaves us with 25h. When we drop that down, and 750 minus 750 is 0, so that cancels, is equal to 750. And then we are going to divide by 25 on both sides. 25 divided by 25 is 1, so we're left with 1h is equivalent to 750 divided by 25, which results in 30. So that tells us the number of hours that Jim needs to work is 30. So put that in sentence form. So Jim must work 30 hours to be able to go on the trip. All right, we have 3 more. Number 9, a rectangular field is twice as long as it is wide. Write and solve an equation to determine the dimensions of the field if its perimeter is 270 yards. So, first of all, you need to know what the word dimensions is. That means the length and the width of the rectangle. So we're going to draw our rectangle, and it's twice as long as it is wide. But we don't know how wide it is, so I'm going to put W. And if it's twice as long, that means that the length is 2 times W. So once I have that, we have enough information to fill in the formula we talked about before. Here's the formula. We're going to plug in the numbers that we know. The perimeter is 270. And the length, although we don't know it, we do know it's 2W. And the width is W. So then I would simplify inside the parentheses. So we get 2 times 3W. And 2 times 3W is 6W. And now we would simply divide both sides by 6 to find out the width. So 270 divided by 6 is 45. So that tells us that 45 is the width. And if 45 is the width, then 2 times 45 is the length, and 2 times 45 is 90. So now we just write it in sentence form. So there's my answer. The width is 45 yards, and the length is 90 yards. Alright, number 10 adds a new twist to things. We have solved equations like this already, but this is the first one on the word problems. You're choosing between 2 health clubs, and Club A offers membership for a fee of $14 plus a monthly fee of $20. So in order to sign up, you have to pay the $14, and then every month you have to pay $20. Club B offers a membership for a fee of $35, so you have to pay $35 to sign up, plus a monthly fee of $13. Write and solve an equation to determine the number of months until the total cost of each health club will be the same. So, the question is how many months. So we know that M, or months, is our variable. Now, if we go back, we have to figure out when Club A equals Club B. So let's write an expression for Club A. It offers a membership for $14. So Club A is $14 plus a monthly fee of $20, so $20 times the number of months. An expression for Club B would be 35 for the fee plus $13 each month, so 13M. And we want to know how long it will take for these to be equal. So there's my equation. Now, when we solve equations with variables on both sides, remember our first objective is to get the variables on one side. So I have a 13M on the left, or on the right hand side. I need to get it away from there. So I'm going to take it away from both sides, and keep in mind that I line up my common or like terms. So this 14 drops down. 20M minus 13M is a positive 7M. The 35 drops down, and 13M minus 13M is 0. So that goes away. Now I have a problem like we've done already on this worksheet. So we're going to subtract 14 from both sides now, and we get 7M equals 21, and then divide both sides by 7, and I have run out of room on my screen here, so I'm going to bring it up here. So I have 7M equals 21, divide both sides by 7, and M equals 3. So the answer is, in 3 months, the total cost will be the same. Write your answer in sentence form, and then move on to the last problem, number 11. All right. There we go, there's 11. Number 11 says a town's population is 38,400. About 125 people move out of the town each month. And each month, 150 people on average move into town. A nearby town has a population of 41,000. It has no one moving in and an average of 175 people moving away every month. Write and solve an equation to determine the number of months that will pass until the populations of the two towns will be the same. So number of months is what we're looking for. So we know that m should be our variable. We want to know when the two towns' populations are the same. So I'll say town 1 and town 2. In town 1, we start with 38,400. And it says that 125 people move out each month. So that means that we take away 125 people each month. So subtract 125m. But it also says each month 150 people move into town. So I would add 150 every month. So that was for town 1. Now I'll do town 2 in a different color. A nearby town has a population of 41,000. And it has no one moving in, so we're not adding anything. And an average of 175 moving away every month. So take away 175 every month. And we want to know when these two towns will have the same population. The same means equal, so there's my equation. Now, on the left-hand side, I'm going to combine like terms. So, negative 125m plus 125m is a positive 25m. So 38,400. Hello. How are you? Plus 25m is equal to 4,100 or 41,000 minus 175m. Now again, the first thing that we want to do is get the m's on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to add 175m to both sides. That allows us to combine the m's, and we would get 38,400 plus 200m is equal to 41,000. And then negative 175m plus 175m is 0, so that's why that goes away. Now I need to take away 38,400 from both sides. That 200m drops down. And 41,000 minus 38,400 is 2,600. And then we need to divide both sides by 200. When we do that, we get m is equivalent to 13. So that means that in 13 months, the populations will be the same. Be sure to write your answer in sentence form. In 13 months, the populations will be the same. And that ends this lesson.